Could you please help me to record? Okay, it is recording right now. Okay, right. So for today's session, lecture session, I am going to share with you the strategies to write a refutation paragraph. Okay, we focus on argumentative essay except for T4. Okay, T4 students, I will focus on the introductory paragraph, body paragraphs, and also concluding paragraph, including refutation on Wednesday. Okay, so before I continue, I would like to inform you that today will be my last day handling your tutorial lecture session. Somebody will replace me because next week is my last day at APU. Okay, so you will see me for T7. That was the last tutorial session that you attended in the morning with me. And then 6, 5, and 4, I am going to conduct your tutorial sessions this week. Okay, so basically today is our last day for lecture session because next week on Monday is a public holiday. Okay, all right. So I am sharing my screen now. Okay, my internet is a bit slow right now. Okay, right. So before I start with refutation paragraph, but I want to share with you information which I believe you might use this, you may use this information in the future for your research presentation, or maybe for communication skills, or maybe PSE. So because for PSE next semester, you will have to present your own information individually. So I believe that these topics will help you to identify and explore more topics related to ethical issues. So because I also teach PSE, what I normally observe is that students normally use, topics that are not really, how do I say this? Topics are very common. Okay, so you may use these topics in case if you need to find and create your speech for PSE. So I am focusing on ethics first of all. Okay, so how do you define ethics? How do you define ethics? So how do you define ethics? What is ethics? What is ethics? How do you define ethics? We have a lot. When we talk about ethics, it is related to your attitude. Okay, it's related to etiquettes. It is related to how you work, how you do your assignment, about morals, and also about your own principles, the way of your life. Okay, and then the way you communicate with others, and also the roles or maybe your own characteristics and your own attributes as a person, as an individual, as a student, or as a son, as a daughter, okay, or as a person who would help and give back to the community, and cooperation, how you behave. Okay, so we could actually say that when we discuss the phrase ethics, it is widely used, especially when we are referring to principles, moral principles. Okay, your behavior, how do you control yourself from saying things that are not good to someone. So it's very common when we talk about ethics. We know that it is related to our attitude and also behavior. But then now, I just want to share with you that the word ethics was actually derived from the Greek word ethos, which can mean custom, habit, and character or disposition. Okay, it's about how you determine whether you want to be a positive person, and then whether you want to use positive phrases when you are arguing, when you are asking questions, or maybe when you are dealing with conflicts. How do you deal with conflicts? So it's all about your habit. Okay, so now, so at its simplest, ethics is a system of moral principles, and then it may affect you in terms of how you make your decision, in terms on how you behave among the public, and then how do you post online, your how do you comment. Okay, so now I am not going to focus on ethics itself, but I would like to share with you some information related to cases of unethical research and experiments. So before that, have you read about any cases of unethical research or experiments? Have you read anything about cases that are not ethical? Not yet. Maybe soon you will read some cases that are unethical. Experiments. How about experiments? Have you read anything, or maybe have you watched videos on YouTube related to unethical experiments? Okay, now, so I believe that you are going to learn something new today. I am going to focus on 3 unethical cases and experiments. So first of all, let's discuss on this. So let's say I have a pamphlet, I have a flyer, and then I just give it to you. You are just walking, minding your own business, and then I just distribute to everyone. So, and then when you read this content, so what do you think about the keyword here? What is wrong? Do you think it is wrong to distribute this kind of flyer or a poster that focuses on something that is not appropriate? What is wrong with this poster? It's actually a poster. So what is wrong with this poster? It's racist. Why? How do you know that it is racist? Colored people. Okay, that's the phrase colored people, that's the keyword. And then anything else? Any other terms that you believe it is too racist? Okay, it is indicating the color of one's skin. All right. And then how about the rest of the phrases that you see now? Bad blood. Okay. Right. It seems like they are trying to show that some people have bad blood. Okay. And then some people they are not, they don't have the benefits of getting anything because of the word bad blood. Okay. All right. So this is a real flyer. This flyer was actually distributed a few years ago. This is a real case, yeah? This is a real case. So this is a lot of documents that anyway were actually distributed to a lot of people, but within a community, and then they want to conduct the duties of the health department in syphilis control. Okay, syphilis control. Not a few years, but maybe around, I think more than 30 years ago. More than 30 years ago. So how do you determine this? How do you determine this? How do you determine whether this is something positive or something negative? So you could see that they are actually sharing the processes. Number 1 is reporting, number 2 about lab, and then clinics, follow-up and education. Okay, and then you can also see that here your state and local health departments in cooperation with voluntary agencies and the physician in private practice are responsible for the control of syphilis. You should support them. So do you think it is wrong to state that? Do you think something is wrong with this poster? Or do you think something is wrong with this document? When you refer to the information, the phrase, you should support them. What do you think? You are now thinking critically. Okay, you have to think critically. Do you think you are going to be triggered with that phrase? Will that trigger you? You should support them. So they do this, all right, because they do not really state that they are given options. Okay, they are not given options. The people were not given options. All right, and then it should be a cue that everyone has syphilis. Okay, now this is a story about Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Okay, Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and then it happened not a few years ago, but of course around 20, 30 years ago, or maybe more than that, but I will share with you the video. So let's watch and observe what happened, what is so unethical about this research or this study. Okay, I will share the link on the meeting chat. Okay, you can find the link on the meeting chat. All right, can you see the link? Tina, can you see it available there? You can see the link, right? Can you? Is the link available on the meeting chat? Okay, thank you. So I will also project my screen here, but I will try to turn on my camera for a while. Okay, I'll share the sound and then I'll share the video. You can obtain this link, you can get the video on YouTube. Okay, let's understand what happened during the implementation of Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Okay, let's watch.
What the United States government did was shameful.
Am I sharing the sound? Am I sharing the audio?
Yes, can hear clearly.
All right, thank you.
I am sorry.
We have no idea how many wives, girlfriends, children inherited the disease and also died or were forever crippled by its effects.
For 40 years, the U.S. government operated public health service conducted what was known as the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, one of the darkest chapters in American history. Now, over 40 years after the study ended, we still don't know and might never know the full extent of its effects. And the study might have continued if not for a 1972 article from Associated Press reporter Jean Heller.
Everyone who knew about this, to my way of thinking, everyone who knew about this and didn't blow the whistle, that didn't shout to high heaven, "This is wrong," is culpable.
Syphilis was considered a national health crisis in the early 20th century.
You don't know a thing about syphilis, except that you've got it.
And time thought syphilis and other medical complications were affected by race. To study the disease, researchers found a population of poor, black, syphilitic sharecroppers in and around Tuskegee, Alabama during the Great Depression. Nearly 400 of the participants had syphilis, while another 200, the control group, did not. In the end, as many as 100 men died from complications related to untreated syphilis, and the message was very clear. Black deaths mattered.
Medical doctors deliberately let them die, wanted them to die for what they could discover from their bodies later.
How old were you when you first learned about the Tuskegee study?
23.
The day you published this story, the day the story was published, did you know what was getting ready to happen?
Yeah. I knew it would be explosive. After the story broke, and there was this incredible public outcry, Senator Kennedy had held very, very public congressional hearings on this.
If they had been white, your public health service would never have agreed to do this study in the first place. They wouldn't have dared.
The study and the aftermath are well documented in films and books, but there are still things we might never know, and for Heller, that goes back to the very beginning.
I still have not heard the answer to the very simple question of why. They should have been able to determine after the first 3 or 4 autopsies that the inside of a black person ravaged by syphilis looks identical to the insides of a white person and stop the study.
Beyond that, Heller believes there's no way to know just how many people were directly or adjacently affected by the study or its disclosure. Survivors, victims of the study, and their families did win a $10 million settlement from the U.S. government, and the study's disclosure led to modern medical ethics procedures. But Heller says more than 40 years later, there's still at least one lesson to be learned from the Tuskegee syphilis study.
Those of us who recognize that this country has got so far to go, never quit fighting. Never quit standing up and yelling. I don't care if you're LGBT, I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're disabled. You need advocates. You need people who can move the world.
Okay, so that is what we call a Tuskegee experiment for syphilis. Okay, all right, first of all, I'll share with you the profile of the case. So it took place in 1932. It's actually more than 30 years ago. Okay, so what they did was they involved a lot of people from certain counterparts of the United States, and then they just mentioned to the people, citizens, that they will be given free medical care. Okay, but they did not really explain what was going to happen exactly about about experimenting them by giving them injections, and then they did not even explain the effects of the study, the effects of the medicine, and then they were actually trying to manipulate the people. Okay, everyone that okay, this is just a free medical care, and then you will be well taken care of by the doctors, and then we are going to give you supports if you participate in this study. Okay, so when you were promised a lot of positive things about, let's say you have an experiment, okay, and then you see, people those days, they were not exposed to social media platforms, and then they did not have technology, they couldn't really read the information online, so they were actually lied by the researchers just to carry out and participate in the study, but ended up they have a lot of issues related to the experiment. Okay, so now here the place called was Macon County. Okay, and then it is a very secluded place. It is not located in the city, so because of that they don't have opportunities to meet the doctors. Okay, they don't have enough time, they don't have enough money, enough fund to meet the doctors, and the doctors were not around. If they are around, it's very, very limited. Okay, the doctors were very, very limited, and then they also had a lot of syphilis cases in that particular area. Okay, so the men enrolled in the study were never told they had syphilis. So they don't know, they don't have knowledge about syphilis. So then they joined and participated in the experiment, but then they were not informed on the situation that they had syphilis. Okay, but instead the researchers kept this information from them and told them, the patients, that they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. Okay, they just mentioned, oh, don't worry about that because you are healthy. We are just going to help you, providing free medical service to treat your bad blood. That's what they said. Okay, so we can actually see a lot of issues already here. Number one, they were not being honest, which is totally wrong for studies, especially medical or scientific studies. And then number two, they just give them injections without consent. Okay, they just give injections. Oh, you have to take this injection because you participate in the study. And then number three, they promise the participants to be provided medical care after the study, but they did not do that. They were just lying. They were just lying for their own benefits. Okay, so then what happened was the 399 syphilitic patients did not receive what they signed up for. Okay, proper treatments were not given. And then what else they did? What they did was they were informed and explained on the outcomes of the experiment. Okay, it's just the doctors. They just want to know. They just want to know the effects of syphilis. They just want to know whether it is going to be affecting certain group of people, maybe group A and B, they're not going to be affected. We just want to test that. But the participants were not informed. That's the issue here. Okay, so they also provided fake medicine. And then there's no medicinal properties. Do you know what placebos is? Do you know what is the term of placebos? Have you heard the term placebos? We have placebos and also nocebos. Okay, so if you have time, you can conduct your study and talk about placebos and also nocebos. Placebos and also nocebos are very good topics to be focused on for your PSE speech. Because if you try to explore more, you will know more. Okay, let me just use this simple term. Placebos are the medicine that you see at convenience store, the 24-hour convenience store. Okay, so whenever you go to For instance, in Malaysia, you go to 7-Eleven, you go to Speedmart, you go to KK Supermart, you know those 24 hours, a convenience store, you can find pills, you can find capsules. But then, do you know that the capsules are sometimes not effective? Do you know the capsules? Do you think the capsules are really effective? Okay, so you try to conduct your research. You can also find the information in TED Education YouTube. Try to find placebos. Try to understand what placebos are, what nocebos are. Okay, so anyway, whatever given to the participants were actually placebos, so nothing actually happens. Okay, there's no medicinal properties. And then if they feel like, the thing is, when we talk about placebos, it's about your mind, your mental function. Okay, you have headache now, you have headache, and then after 2 days you feel like it's getting worse. I don't know what to do. I don't want to take any medicine. I don't want to use any pills or anything, but I just want to make sure that it is going to be treated naturally, for instance. But then after 2 days it's getting worse, and then you try to buy the capsules that you can get from the 24 hours convenience stores, and then after a few hours you feel better. Because why? Sometimes the capsules are not effective. It's just that your mental tells you, that your brain tells you that, hey, you have taken the medicine and then you'll be fine. It's all about your brain function. Okay, so that were actually given to the participants. So now the study actually went on for 40 years. Can you imagine? They were actually manipulating the people for 40 years, not 4 years. To me, 4 years is very, very long. It's 40 years. The entire time the participants, assuming they were being treated, they were not treated for the whole 40 years. Okay, and then instead the government was purposely letting the disease progress for the study. Can you imagine? They know that the participants had issues, medical issues, health issues that should be treated, but they just forget about it. They just keep quiet. But then the participants were just like, were in the days whether I am okay, I'm not okay, and then after that they pass away due to the complications of syphilis. But the government did that purposely. That's why I said this is unethical. You cannot manipulate people just because this is my own study. I don't care whether you are going to be okay after 1 hour or 2 hours, but we don't care. You have signed up, you have signed the contract. So whatever it is, you must make sure you carry on with your participation. That's what they did. Okay, that's why I said it's a very, very good topic to be covered for other modules. Okay, so this is what they shared. So when you see something like this, I just want to remind you this. If you see something online, maybe offers or maybe a link, and then the link and the information states there that if you click this link, you will get 50 ringgit KFC vouchers or McDonald's vouchers. Do not click. Okay, do not click, because it's too good to be true. Let's think again. Who wants to give you vouchers for free without you doing something in return? Okay, this is what happened to the people, the participants of Tuskegee syphilis experiment, because they saw this. They thought, okay, everything is positive here. Okay, first of all, we have to report. Okay, we have to participate. We have to sign up, and then the information will be checked and examined in the labs. Okay, and then clinics. Okay, they will have clinics, so don't worry. If we have complications, we can go to the clinics. And then, oh, that's nice. The doctors will follow up. They will go to our places and then they will talk to us. They will get the updates and then about education. But they did not give anything to the participants. Okay, instead they just manipulated the participants. Okay, so considering what you have now learned about Tuskegee, does your interpretation of this portal and its purpose change? Do you think whatever I shared with you, actually not much. You can also do your own research. You can find more information anyway. But do you think it is going to change your perception about this poster? Why? Why change? Why do you think it is going to change? So earlier you didn't know anything about Tuskegee. You just know that okay, this is just a simple documentation sent to the citizens and sent to the potential participants. And then now, since you know the story, do you think your perception has changed? Could you please explain why? Because to be honest with you, if I get this documentation, I will be thinking about, oh, okay, all right, I am going to get a lot of benefits here. Number one, free medical care. And then number two, a lot of people, especially the doctors, they are going to help. They are going to update accordingly. Okay? Samuel, could you please explain why do you think it has changed? Why do you think it has changed? Why do you think it has changed? Because we know that it is unethical. Okay, we know what happened. They manipulated the participants, but before they manipulated the participants, they gave them a lot of positive documentations. A lot of information is very, very positive. Nothing is and nothing okay. But now I realize they're just being used. Yes, they're just being used. Okay, they're actually, what do we call that when you conduct experiments? They're just guinea pigs. Okay, all right. So this is one. I have another two studies to share with you. Okay, now let's discuss about this baby. Why do babies cry? Okay, I just used this photo just to make sure that you can imagine there's a baby in front of me. So now I need to identify what are the reasons that babies cry. So why do babies cry? Why do you think babies cry? What's the reason? Not only this baby, other babies. In general, why do babies cry? What are the reasons? What are the possible reasons that babies cry? They feel uncomfortable, okay, hungry, and then anything else. Maybe they want something or in pain. They know how to talk, something unpleasant happened, and then to communicate. Life is tough. Wow, that is really early. Sleepy, release emotions, requests. Okay, that is the best way for them to communicate. Okay, sadness from inside out. Okay, right. So now another study, another unethical study related to a baby. Okay, I hope that you are going to be very, very well prepared for the outcome of this study. Okay, because to me personally, when I was preparing these slides, this another two studies here, because Tuskegee, it involves few adults. Okay, it involves adults, but I totally don't agree with the studies. But then these two studies, I will focus on the first one. These studies actually involved children, but this one involved a baby, just one baby. Okay, this baby's name is Albert. Okay, let's look at what happened to Albert. Okay, so it is called the Little Albert experiment. Little Albert. So Little Albert was actually manipulated by the researchers. You can find the videos on YouTube, but I will share one with you so that we can understand further on the Little Albert experiment. Okay, I believe I am sharing the sound now. Okay, I will share with you the link. Okay. All right. The link. Okay. And then please let me know if I am not sharing the audio. Okay, let's watch what happened to
First off, to start off the conditioning, when Albert reached to touch the rat, a loud bar was struck whenever Albert reached for the rat. Here, Albert first off fell forward and was startled, but he did not cry yet. But he reached for it for a second time and heard it, and then he started to cry. Watson had indeed conditioned a fear response in little Albert. Albert was then shown a rabbit. He immediately cried and got as far away as possible from it. Then a dog was also brought in. Albert did not cry right away. He was acting cautious, and it was only when the dog came right up to his head that he began to cry and tried to get away from it. After this, a seal fur coat was brought in. Albert turned away from it and was agitated. Then Watson used a Santa Claus mask, in which invoked an even more negative response by baby Albert. From the previous experience from the white rat, little Albert suddenly became afraid of familiar objects that had the same characteristics as the white rat. This phenomenon was known as generalization. Watson then wanted to test whether the reaction would carry over in a different setting. The previous tests were done in a small dark room, but now he was brought into a larger room. He was presented with the same objects but did not show strong symptoms of withdrawal until the objects were paired with a loud noise. Watson now wanted to see if fear could remain in Albert over a period of time. So Albert was brought home and returned in 1 month. When he returned, he was tested with the same objects and paired with the same loud noises. Albert indeed showed the same strong signs of withdrawal. Watson once again proved that he could condition fear into baby Albert. Watson concluded that phobias were most likely conditioned responses. The little Albert study is extremely important in psychology and other disciplines. It has inspired other important researchers of the past and continues to impact the direction of psychological investigation today. And opponent process theory.
Okay, right. That is about little Albert experiment. Okay, so let's understand what happened to little Albert. Okay, so the participant in the experiment was a child that Watson and Rayner called Albert B. So the researchers were Watson and Rayner. So what they did was they just randomly chose a baby, little Albert, and he was 9 months old, and then they exposed him to a series of stimuli, including animals, a white rat, a rabbit, a monkey, okay, and then mice, burning newspapers, and they wanted to observe the boy's reactions. Okay, what is wrong with this experiment? Based on the video that you watched earlier, so what is wrong? What is wrong with the experiment? Do you think it is wrong? PTSD, yeah. And they find a way to do this same experiment without potentially ruining the baby's life. Yes, his life is actually ruined because he had the trauma. Okay, he had the trauma that earlier you could see from the video. He really enjoyed seeing the animals, okay, playing with the animals. And then he liked a white rabbit. The white rabbit, he really loved the white rabbit. And then he tried to touch, okay. And then when he when he touched the dogs, he was fine earlier. Okay, he was fine earlier. But then, what was the signal that he was scared of the animals? Why do you think he was scared of the animals? After the first attempt, what was the reason that he got scared? Why? What happened to him? Because why? What was the reason that he got scared when he needed to play with the animals for the second time? Because of the noise. Okay, because of the loud noise. Okay, earlier when they showed the animals and then he played with the animals, he touched the animals just another normal baby. But then when they tried to combine, okay, the presence of the animal and the sound and the loud noise, he was scared. Okay, he was scared. He felt like, oh, these are something terrifying. This animal is terrifying. These animals are terrifying. Whatever I see, whatever objects I see in front of me, and then I hear loud noise, I don't like it because it is so terrifying. Okay, so that's what they want. That's what they did to Albert. Okay, so the boy initially showed no fear. We saw that. We actually observed from the video. He enjoyed playing with the animals earlier. Okay, but then again, when they tried to combine, okay, when they tried to combine the presence of the animals and the loud noise, he was so frightened. He was so frightened, and because of that, he is mentally disturbed when since he was a baby, even until maybe after 20 years or 30 years or the whole of his life, he might be scared of seeing animals. He might be scared of seeing objects. Okay, he might be scared of hearing loud noise. You see, that also affects the baby. That's why I said this is so unethical. Okay, he had issues. I think, Saili, the researchers also had issues. They are psychologists. They are psychologists. But then I think for psychologists, they have to know better than people like us. Like we don't have any experience in terms of reacting or communicating with humans or babies, but they were psychologists. I think they do have issues as well. But because of them, Albert had issues. Okay, so they observe the emotional responses, and then they observe that if they try, and that's what we call generalization. After conditioning, Albert feared not just the white rabbit, but almost everything. Almost everything. Okay? Yes, I agree, Tina. They do have weird thoughts. Yes, I think maybe they prefer to dig deep about certain topics without considering other people's traumatic experience, without considering any other unforeseen circumstances. Okay, but that's what happened to little Albert. Okay. All right. So what do you think? Do you think it is experiment? Of course, I think based on what you type here on the meeting chat, definitely it is totally not ethical because the boy was actually affected. Okay. And then he had like an unpleasant experience that he had to see whatever he sees in front of him, he is going to be scared. Everything is terrifying. Everything is frightening. They change his mindset about seeing things. Okay, he was okay earlier, but then because of the researchers, because of the experiment, he might experience changes in his life. Okay, this is about only one boy. Another experiment is on before that. Okay, I would like to share with you on the criticism. So the experimental design and process were not carefully constructed. Of course, it was not carefully constructed. They should know what are the outcomes. They should know what are the effects. Instead, they just conducted the study without considering what happened to Albert. What will happen to Albert? That's one. Okay, and the number two, Albert was harmed during his this experiment. Okay, and then by today's standards, the little Albert would not be allowed. Of course, we won't allow. I don't understand why. I seriously don't understand. How could the parents allow little Albert to participate? How could the parents allow? I think maybe in return they might get money, or maybe they have some kind of, what do we call that, tokens. I'm not sure, because those days, it is not something recent. It happened like a few years ago. So I think maybe in return they get tokens or something, or maybe what do we call that, maybe someone or a group of people will respect them more, and then they want the baby to be famous. Okay, all right. So now about monsters. Are you scared of monsters? I think you play games, right? You see monsters every day. So what do you think? Are you scared of monsters? Are you scared of monsters? Why? Why, Tina? No. You are scared of monsters. Imagine this monster. It appears in front of you. What would you do? Depends on which type. Okay. I'm used to them. Wow, that is so deep, Shami. They are not cute. This isn't scary. Okay. Do you have better monsters? Please screenshot and put on the meeting chat. So frightening, and then you are so scared, and you are not ready to see the presence of the monster. Okay, this is another controversial experiment. This is so unethical. It involves a lot of children. Earlier it's about Albert, only Albert, but another experiment here is about a group of children were manipulated, and they also had the issues of traumatic experience. Okay, so I will share I'm sharing my screen, right? So it is called the monster study. Okay, when I read the article about the monster study, I actually read this 4 years ago. When I read this research about the monster study, I was thinking about, do monsters really exist? Okay, because look at the title of the study. I really thought monsters really exist. But then when I read the whole article, they were actually focusing on the researchers are the monsters. The researchers are the monsters because why? Again, they conducted the study for their own profit, for their own benefits. Okay, now I will share with you the link. This is also another interesting story about a research. Okay, oh yes, I don't like clowns. Seriously, I don't like clowns. I don't like the clown from It. What is his name? Do you know the movie It? Do you know the movie It? I don't like the clown. I cannot remember the name. I always forget his name. But he is so terrifying. Okay, all right. So I am sharing my screen. Pennywise, yes, I don't like Pennywise. Okay, so let's watch. What happened? What did they do to the children during the implementation of the monster study? Okay, let's watch.
For a more lengthy discussion about this topic can be found in the Enigmas podcast. Link in the bio. In 1939, a study was conducted in Iowa Davenport involving 22 orphans. The objective was to induce stuttering in normal-speaking children and to see whether telling stutterers that their speech was fine would help them recover. What was well-intentioned in the first place turned out to be one of the most unethical studies ever conducted in the field of psychology, which caused a lifelong trauma to the participants of the study. In the end, the study was never published in a peer-reviewed journal, and it was bitterly dubbed as the monster study by the participants themselves. The study was conducted by a graduate student, Mary Tudor, under the supervision of Wendell Johnson, who was a distinguished speech expert from the University of Iowa. Since the monster study was conducted during the wake of the human experiment by the Nazis during World War II, the experiment was kept hidden for fear of Johnson's reputation. Because the study was never published in a peer-reviewed journal, Tudor's thesis, the graduate who conducted the study, is the only official record of the details of the experiment. Despite its controversy, Patricia Zabrowski, University of Iowa Assistant Professor of Speech, Pathology, and Audiology, believed that the study has the largest collection of scientific information on the phenomenon of stuttering, as Johnson was the first to discuss the importance of the stutterer's thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, and feelings, which continues to influence views on the stuttering greatly. In 2001, the University of Iowa publicly apologized for the monster study. None of the participants were told of the intent of the research, and they believe that they were there to receive speech therapy. The study involved 22 orphans, which consisted of both stuttering and non-stuttering from the Iowa Soldiers' Orphans' Home. They were divided into two groups, where one of the group was praised for their speech, whilst the other group was progressively showing symptoms of stuttering, and correction had to take place immediately. The experimental period lasted from January until late May in 1939, and the actual intervention consisted of Tudor driving to Davenport from Iowa City every few weeks and talking with each child for about 45 minutes. She followed an agreed-upon script. In her dissertation, she reported that she talked to the stuttering youngsters who were going to be told that they did not stutter. She said, "You will outgrow the stuttering, and you will be able to speak even much better than you are speaking now. Pay no attention to what others say about your speaking ability, for undoubtedly, they do not realize that this is only a phase." To the non-stuttering youngsters who were to be branded stutterers, she said, "The staff has come to the conclusion that you have a great deal of trouble with your speech. You have many of the symptoms of a child who is beginning to stutter. You must try to stop yourself immediately. Use your willpower. Do anything to keep from stuttering. Do not ever speak unless you can do it right. You see how so-and-so stutters, don't you? Well, he undoubtedly stuttered this very same way." All the children's schoolwork fell off. One of the boys began refusing to recite in class. The other, 11-year-old Clarence Pfeiffer, started anxiously correcting himself. Tudor reported, "He stopped and told me he was going to have trouble on words before he said them. She asked him how he knew. He said, 'The sound wouldn't come out. It feels like it's stuck in there.'" One of the participants, Mary Kurlaski, a 12-year-old, grew withdrawn and fractious. During their sessions, Tudor asked whether her best friend knew about her stuttering. Kurlaski muttered, "No." "Why not?" Kurlaski shuffled her feet. "I hardly ever talk to her." 2 years later, she ran away from the orphanage and eventually ended up at the Rougher Industrial School for Girls, simultaneously escaping her human experimentation. Mary Tudor herself wasn't untouched. 3 times after her experiment had officially ended, she returned to the orphanage to voluntarily provide follow-up care. She told the branded stutterers that they did not stutter after all. The impact, however well-meaning, was questionable. She wrote to Johnson about the orphans in a slightly defensive letter dated April 22, 1940. "I believe that in time they will recover, but we certainly made a definite impression on them." On 17th August 2007, 7 of the orphan children were awarded a total of $1.2 million by the state of Iowa for lifelong psychological and emotional scars caused by 6 months of torment during the University of Iowa experiment. The study learned that although none of the children became stutterers, some became self-conscious and reluctant to speak. A spokesman for the University of Iowa called the experiment regrettable and added, "This is a study that should never be considered defensible in any era." In no way would I ever think of defending the study. In no way. It's more than unfortunate. Before her death, Mary Tudor expressed deep regret about her role in the monster study and maintained that Wendell Johnson should have done more to reverse the negative effects on the orphan children's speech.
Okay, right. Okay, so what do you think about this study here? About the monster study? Do you think this is ethical? Do you think this is ethical? About the monster study here? This is very unethical. Why? Because they still manipulated the participants. They did not really explain what is the purpose of the study, what were they investigating, and then they thought, oh, okay, we are going to get treatment for our stuttering problem. But then again, you know what happened is the participants, they have lifelong emotional scars, okay, psychological scars. Some of them, they are still alive. Okay, so some of them, they are still alive, the participants. Okay, you have to do your own research on that, yeah, okay. So for the monster study, so what happened was it involves any monsters, it doesn't involve any monsters, but it's just that it threatened to ruin the reputation of the psychologist behind it. Okay, so the person or the psychologist, she just recruited some participants from the orphanage, okay, because the participants were actually orphans, and then they were informed that they are going to be joining speech therapy classes, okay, speech therapy treatment. So they thought, okay, it's a good thing that we can also improve the way we speak and articulate, and then we might be able to eliminate the stutter problem. That's what they told them. Okay, that's what she told them, that they are going to experience a very good good class sessions to help them to improve. That was the promise, okay? And then what happened was, so Dr. Wendell Johnson, so she just picked around 22 students or orphans, okay, 22 orphans, and then he wanted to understand how children develop a stutter, okay? But then she did not really design her own processes, and then she did not really think about the consequences and then the consequences to the participants after the study. Okay, so 1936, when he chose participants of the monster study, okay, 22 orphans, okay, but the thing is, not all of the children have a stutter. They have a mixture of non-stutter students and stutter students, stutter orphans and non-stutter orphans. Okay, and then they were divided into two groups, and they were labeled normal speakers and stutterers. Okay, so you could see that there was a situation where the orphans or the participants were actually discriminated indirectly. Okay, so then what happened was, so if let's say you are dealing with group number 1, I don't know why, but they just chose 22. I'm not sure about the reasons. I don't know why. Okay, I seriously not sure why they chose 22, but the participants were 22 of them. Okay, so Johnson's team met with the children every few weeks for 5 months. Imagine, they were actually tortured for 5 months. Okay, they were tortured for 5 months, and then children in a normal group were praised. Even they have a stutter, but since he or she belongs to that normal group, they were actually praised. Okay, so even they had stuttering problem, or they had speaking problems or speech articulation problem, they were still praised. But unfortunately, for another group, Children in the stuttering group were told that they spoke poorly. Instead of motivating the students, instead of motivating the children, they were criticizing. They criticized the student. They scolded the students. You must try to stop yourself immediately. Don't ever speak unless you can do it right. Because why? They have the situation where that second group, you must torture them. Even they can speak well, they don't have a stutter, you still have to say they must improve. That's what happened. It happened continuously for 5 months. Continuously for 5 months. Okay. All right. So Samuel, so since if they were grouped in normal group, okay, if they were grouped in normal group, even they have a stutter or if they can speak normally, they will praise. But another group is even they could speak as, you know, just like normal children, and even they have a stutter, they were tortured because they belong to that group. Okay, so what happened was children in a normal group were praised, even they are normal children without having a stutter. Even they have a stutter, they were praised. Another group were criticized. Okay, they were actually criticized. So the results here, the children who were labeled normal weren't affected much. Because why? They were praised. Okay, because they were not tortured. They did not hear any negative thoughts, any negative phrases, any negative words from the researchers. But they could see only improvement in one child, but this group from the stuttering group fared a lot of worse. Okay, remember, not all of these children actually had a stutter, they were just told that they had. Okay, so they use reverse psychology here because they just want to show to the children that they are normal. Anyway, they were normal. They didn't have any issues. It's just because that they were criticized overwhelmingly because they belong to a stuttering group. Reports show that these children became withdrawn and some stopped speaking altogether because they were scared to speak. If I say something, the person will scold me. Even if I could say it, you know, in a good way and in a polite way, and then I don't have a stuttering problem, I will still get the scolding. You know what? They don't want to say anything. They don't want to talk. You see, this is so full psychological effects. You actually cause a lot of trouble to the kids. You actually cause a lot of trouble to the children, to the off. Okay, and then here, what happened? Okay, all right. So Nixon, now 76. So Nixon is still alive. Okay, Nixon is still alive. You can just try to, okay, I'll turn off my camera. You can just try to type his name, Nixon, the monster study, okay, from Google search engine, and then you can find information about him. So, and some of the other test subjects with the University of Iowa earlier this year are over lifelong psychological problems. They say stem in part from the 1939 experiment. Okay, but the last one I checked was, wait, not last year, recently. It was in April, if I'm not mistaken. I read about article about Nixon, but maybe now you can just try and type Nixon, the monster study, and then try to understand what happened to him. But imagine this is 2021, okay? And then if Nixon is still alive, so he had been having the issues since what? 60 or 70 plus years ago. Okay, all right. All right, so for Stanford Prison Experiment, Ibrahim, maybe you can suggest to your new lecturer for the discussion session. Okay, all right, because I prepared the 3 unethical experiments. Okay, so now you learn a lot about unethical experiments actually around the world, and then how researchers manipulated a lot of the participants just to make sure that they could identify what is the outcomes, what are the outcomes of the studies, what are the outcomes of psychological factors and also internal or external factors, but then without considering what happened to the participants. Okay, Jamil, you will find out on Tuesday because Monday next week is a public holiday. Yeah. Okay, all right, let's take 5 minutes break and then I will straight away go to refutation paragraph related to the topic human experimentations. Okay. Okay, we will continue, yeah? All right. So I prepared another set of slides for refutation paragraph. Okay, so here, so you watch 3 videos on unethical experiments, and then now my first question is, what do you think about human experimentation? Do you think it is okay to conduct, from 2021 and beyond? Do you think it is okay to conduct the study? Where am I now? Okay, hold on. See, what am I seeing right now? Okay. So what do you think about human experimentation? Do you think it is acceptable? Let's think about from 2021 and beyond. If they are ethical. So it means if they want to conduct the experiments, they have to do it based on proper plans. Okay, they have to make sure that they identify the causes, the effects, the impacts to the participants, and then they have to really determine the assistance to be given to the participants. And then what do you think about the social experiments conducted by a lot of famous people like YouTubers, Insta famous, TikTokers? So what do you think about social experiments? Do you think it's okay? Imagine you are minding your own business, you're walking around along the street, and then somebody tries to test you for social experiment without you giving your consent. So do you think it's okay? Do you think it's fine? Because a lot of YouTubers these days, they use social experiment to be their own content for their YouTube videos. So no, okay, all right. They have to ask first, okay, not at all. I remember watching a video, I cannot remember the YouTuber's name, but what he did was, okay, the good thing is that in return, he gave iPods to the people, okay, to random people. But it's very wrong to do that, yes. So when I watched that particular video, I don't know, I cannot remember as far, but that's what he did. He just approached random people, and the random people were actually using their earphones, and mostly the earphones were, I think from Apple earphones, the normal earphones, just normal earphones, let's say. And then he just approached the people and he just take a pair of scissors and then he cut the earphones without their consent. So what do you think? Yes, in return, it was good that he gave earpods, but then what do you think about that? Do you think it is ethical to do that? Do you think it is ethical to do that? Yes, in return, he gave a set of new AirPods, okay, but then did he have the the ability to be able to just, not ability, what should I say, does he have the right to do that, like cutting the earphones? That was crazy, I think. What if that is the only earphones that they have, and they have such a strong sentimental value? Okay, that's what I watched earlier. And then do you think you believe in gold digger experiments? Do you think it's true that the people are actually random people? Do you think everything is scripted or not scripted? What do you think? Do you think the situations were actually scripted or not scripted? Especially gold digger experiments. It is not. Sometimes it is not. Okay. Sometimes it is true that they paid some people to act, right? To act. Okay. So I think that's what we call human experimentation as well. Human experimentation. And a lot of issues anyway that YouTubers or famous people need to consider before deciding the content of the videos. Okay, some videos are very interesting, I know, very interesting. I really like the video where the YouTubers helped the homeless, and then he gave the money to the homeless people, and they even bought food for them. Okay, that one, I think they don't have the intention to just conduct an experiment, but they just want to help. Okay, that is acceptable. Okay, but the actions of cutting people's earphones and then also taking phones, yes, that's another video, I think, from the same person, Mr. Beast. He also took the iPhone, and then I think he just destroyed the phone, and then he gave a new iPhone. I cannot remember what. Okay, all right. So let's say this is my topic. Should human experimentation be allowed? What do you think? Should human experimentation be allowed? So I believe it should not be allowed. It can be allowed, but then the researchers must determine and state clearly the process and then the effects and also the information required before they conduct the study. Okay, so now let's focus on refutation paragraph. So when I have this topic about human experimentation, and I have to show to my readers that I agree it should be allowed, or I don't agree it should be allowed. Okay, all right, so now here, why should we and why shouldn't we? So we will have two opinions here, two positions. So when you are writing your argumentative essay, you must make sure that you choose a stand. You must determine one. You cannot choose both. Okay, I think I mentioned this also last week. You must choose one position. And then when you know that you can only choose one position, you have to refute. Okay, how do you refute? How do you refute? Okay, so now when we talk about refutation paragraph, you are trying to address, you are addressing the opposing views. You are addressing the opposing views. So how to do that? When you are writing a refutation paragraph, you must restate what is the topic that you are discussing on, and then you have to refute. You have to state what is the or what are the views provided or mentioned by the opposing party, and then you have to support. When you want to show that your information is better compared to the information prepared and mentioned by the opposing views, you have to support, and then you also have to conclude. Conclude is like you are providing a warrant to what you state before you conclude everything, and then mission accomplished. Okay. So the refutation paragraph is where you acknowledge the other side of the issue. Why do you have to acknowledge? You need to acknowledge, okay? I gave this example to T7 earlier in the morning. So imagine you want, okay, T7, I'm sorry, I'm going to use the same example, okay? So imagine you are now 31 years old. Okay, you are 31 years old. Okay, I think 31 is still young. Okay, you are now 40 years old. You are now 40 years old, you have a good career, you have a good profession, you have a lot of money, and then your parents are worried about you. Worried about what? You not getting married. You are not married, even you are 40. And when we talk about parents, of course, our parents want their own grandchildren. So they are expecting to see their grandchildren immediately. But you need to get married. So then your parents, they try to find some random people, family friends, and then they add someone randomly on Facebook. They follow someone on Instagram. And then they just approach you and say, okay, I have someone to introduce to you. Imagine mom and dad in front of you now. Okay, so who's the girl or who's the guy? It's okay, you can just go, and then go out, hang out after 2 or 3 hours, and then try to get to know him or try to get to know her, and then you let us know. Okay, but why? Why do I have to go out? You are 40, we are getting older. We want to see our grandchildren. How long we have to wait now? We don't know whether we can still live next year. Okay, you get so stressed out, and then you don't want to hurt them. What you can do is, okay, you can say to your mom and dad, okay, you want to appreciate them first for taking the time to add people online, to add on Facebook, to follow on Instagram, contacting family friends. Okay, so happen your mom's best friend has a daughter or a son. Okay, fine. So then you just want to tell your mom and dad you want to refute now. You don't want to get married. You are not ready. Even you're 40 years old, you are not ready. You don't want to get married. But then how do you refute? Okay, you say it nicely. You just say it nicely. Well, mommy and daddy, it is undeniable that I'm 40 years old. And then I totally understand that you want your own grandchildren. And this is the right time for me to start my own family. Okay, you say it in a positive way. And then when you start saying, therefore, not therefore, but, when you have but, you have to state why whatever they did is wrong. What they are the right way to help you to get married. Okay, just explain. But I am not ready. I want to make sure that I could get at least 3 houses before I get married. And then I have my own goal. You explain, and then you say everything nicely, and you just want to make sure that your mom and dad says, okay, fine. Okay? All right. I turn off the camera. Okay, so your intention here is you don't want to reject directly, but you still want to focus on the positive side of the view. That's what you do. Okay, all right. So here, what you can do is, while you want to spend a great deal of the essay supporting your argument, you still need to analyze what others' arguments have to say. Okay, so it means that I give you a simple example about dealing with your parents, and then you do have some issues that you don't see eye to eye with them. You don't want to say yes to whatever they do. You don't want to say yes to whatever instructions given by them, but you want to address what they said. You want to show that you appreciate that they do something for you, but at the same time you want to show them that even if they believe that it is a great way for them to find someone to make sure that you get married, you still want to prove them wrong. That's what you have to do here. So unless writers acknowledge the valid points of the opposing argument, they sound narrow-minded and thereby less effective. So you want to be a professional. For professionals in the meeting, for instance, you have a meeting, you are chairing a meeting now, you are the CEO of the company, and then you are getting your staff and employees to provide feedback or provide solutions or maybe suggestions. So if you want to make sure that everyone respects you as a boss, as a leader, you must listen to them. You must provide opportunities to all your staff and employees to share what they think about the topic or what are their thoughts about the issues, so that they know you address them, you acknowledge their effort to provide solutions or to provide information, so for the sake of the company. Okay, that's the intention of writing an argument and a refutation paragraph, sorry. Okay, so here, but be careful though, writers don't want the other side of the argument to sound better than his or her own. So you don't want to show, even if you agree, and then you know that the first sentence shows that you agree to the point that, okay, it is undeniable, or some may argue that, but then you still want to show yours is more valid compared to the opposing views, information, or reasons provided by them. Okay, so how to do that? So first of all, ultimately, the refutation paragraph argues for the claim made in the essay's thesis while showing the flawed logic of others. It should never present a different argument than the one in the thesis. Remember your topic. What is your point? Do you agree or disagree? Are you saying should or should not? You must remember that. That's one. And then number two, you just need to summarize. You do not have to state everything based on the opposition's point. Okay, plainly and fairly, then show the flawed reasoning in it. Okay, all right, so that's what you can do. So you still address, but you are not going to explain further and elaborate further on the opposition's point. All right, that's one. And then how do you start? By restating. You introduce the opposing argument. So the first part is you can just restate in detail. Okay, just state the summary. Just state the summary, no elaboration required. So ignoring the opposition is ineffective because the audience is aware of the opposing arguments. So audience, they are aware that some researchers or some readers or some writers, they might have the opposing arguments. So they just want to see how do you reject or how do you counter the arguments from the opposing views, okay, from the opposing points. And then they will doubt the credibility of a writer that choose to ignore. Okay, so please do not ignore. Yes, you can provide one. Just focus on one example. Okay, so what you can do is you can use all this. Okay. Ways writers can begin, but what is not completely inaccurate? Okay, so what you can include here is, but the opposing views is not, the opposition is not completely inaccurate. Okay, it is true that, okay, then you state what is the opposition view, what is the opposing view. Or you can also use this, it is often argued that, or maybe you can state opposing views claim. You state the information, then you elaborate. Why do you think the opposing views are not right? They are inaccurate. Okay. Opponents of this idea claim or maintain that those who disagree or are against these ideas may say or assert that, or some people may disagree with this idea. Some people may say that, however. Okay, when you state that, we know that you do not agree entirely to what the opposition claims. Okay, all right. So let's say my topic is on, can social media destroy real life communication? So what you can do is, your thesis statement is, what is sure to say that social media does not affect face-to-face interaction in a law. So this is your thesis statement. Let's say this is your thesis statement. So when you write the refutation paragraph, opposing views claim that excessive use of online communication impedes development of verbal skills. So you are showing that, you are saying that social media does not affect face-to-face interaction, but you are aware that the opposing views claim that excessive use of online communication impedes development of verbal skills. You know that, you are aware. Okay, when you say the opposite, you know that the opposing views also. Okay, that's how you start. And then how do you refute? How do you refute? How do you acknowledge parts of the opposition that are valid? Okay, so now you have to also state, why do you think it does make sense that the opposing views are actually correct? Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes they are correct, they are right. So the writer acknowledges that some of the opposition's claim may be valid. Refutation paragraph is intro, main body or concluding paragraph. No. This is another paragraph, refutation paragraph. You have to write it after body paragraphs. After you are done with your body paragraphs, you have to state one paragraph, that is refutation paragraph, before your concluding paragraph. Okay, the writer acknowledges that some of the opposition claims may be valid. Okay, but not entirely. That's one. And then number two, the strength of the writer's claims are more convincing than the opposing viewpoints. And number three, you want to highlight, okay, the opposition's weakest points, contrasting them with his argument's strongest points. Okay, so you have to be smart in terms of comparing, in terms of showing comparison between the information that you present, and then when they compare to the opposing views information or points, your readers will be able to gauge whether you are right or the opposing views are right, oppositions are right. Okay, so then what you can do is, the writer acknowledges that some of the opposition's claims may be valid, just maybe, not valid. Okay, but the writer still shows that his own claims are stronger. So I hope you understand the process. First of all, you want to say that the claim is right. Okay, it is right, and then you want to do it in a polite way that you are addressing, and then you are saying it's right. But then your intention is, you still want to prove to your readers that the opposing views are wrong. They are not entirely right. Okay, so what you can do here is, you can use these phrases: admittedly, certainly, of course, one cannot deny that, or at the same time. Okay, so you can add that. All right, let's look at the example here. Okay, the same topic that I showed to you earlier, that is my refutation paragraph. For the first part, I address. Okay, I will just open this and then I will highlight so that you can see. Okay, 18. Right, so this is my first part of my refutation, my first part. Okay, I will highlight this. Sorry. Okay. This is my first part of my refutation paragraph. Okay, I address that it is true. Okay, that use of online communication impedes development of verbal skills. But then again, here, I add some simple information to support that, to support the opposing views. Admittedly, one cannot deny the fact that, okay, I will try to highlight this in red. Admittedly, one cannot deny the fact that constant usage of online communication may affect interpersonal communication, but not entirely. Okay, when you state but not entirely, according to studies, you are now establishing your information. You just want to make yourself clear that, well, it's true, it may affect interpersonal communication, but not entirely. Okay? All right, that is the second part of your refutation paragraph. And then counterclaim. How do you counter? Okay, so how do you support your point? You must introduce the rebuttal of the consensus argument. So showing they are incorrect. So now your role is you want to show the information that you shared, that you praised earlier, still incorrect and inconsequential. Okay, you need to provide examples to support your reasoning. So based on what I shared earlier, is about look at this sentence, but not entirely according to studies. State which study, which studies are you referring to? State. Okay, so that your information is supported by studies. Provide examples. The list, however, on the other hand, or maybe but. You can use this to help you. Okay, I give you an example. I have prepared the example. Okay, as you all know, this is a summary of information that is obtained from the opposing views. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, it's better now. Okay, I will try to reshare my screen. All right, so here, okay, so this is my first point that I address the opposing views. And then the second sentence, I include some simple summary about what they claim, but towards the end, okay, but then nevertheless, according to a study conducted in 2013, the integration of multiple social media tools for language learning can enhance the student's experience. In bracket, the mod 2013. By acquiring foreign languages via videos or materials online, students will develop self-esteem to communicate with others from different countries. So that's how I show to the oppositions that even if, yes, online communication may affect development of verbal skills, but according to the study, and it is supported by the mod 2013, a lot of people, a lot of users, internet users are learning language through videos or online materials, and they have obtained, and they also are able now to speak and communicate with others from different countries. Okay, so that's how you show that your information, your point is stronger than the opposition's views. Okay, that's how you do it. I think 47 they did a good job. They managed to do this. Okay, so you see, when you provide your evidence, it is related to verbal skills. Because why? A lot of students, a lot of users, they use videos or materials online. So how could you say it is not good? How could you say online communication affects development of verbal skills? A lot of people can speak to a lot of people from around the world because they learn and obtain the videos or materials online. Who said that? I prefer to a study conducted by the mod 2013. This is a valid study. This is a published study. So your opposition might be, the information might be very shaky. They might think, oh yes, yeah, I know that. You are speaking based on facts. Okay, you are speaking based on facts. You did not include or create the mod 2013. You conducted your research, you got the information, and then you shared to counter the information presented by the oppositions. That's how you do it. Okay, all right. So then, what else do you have to do here? To conclude, of course, you have to conclude. Okay, you should summarize why the counter argument is not sufficient solution. You must state why the information or the point provided by the opposition is not acceptable. Okay, so how can you do it? So you have to include in your conclusion paragraph the final sentence. You try to summarize the whole thing. Thus, therefore, as a result, sometimes writers might just want to restate his or her position simply. Okay, you can also use these phrases to help you to conclude your refutation paragraph. Okay. So here, starting from hence. Okay, starting from hence. So we have the first sentence to address. The second sentence I added some information related to the view from the opposition. And then the third sentence here, the third sentence is my evidence that I believe online communication does not affect verbal skills. Okay. And then here I provide examples based on the mod 2013. A lot of people learn language through videos or materials online. Hence, after seeing this evidence, there's no way that idea that social media affects face-to-face communication can be agreed. Acquiring multiple foreign languages is crucial in today's world to ensure more industrious individuals in the future who possess excellent interpersonal skills. You see, this is like a closure for the opposition to say that you are right. Okay, this is the cue that you are showing to the opposition. Whatever you say is true compared to what they claim. Okay, this is an example of a refutation paragraph. Okay, this is the example. All right. So here, all right, here, I put the colors so that you can see when you are trying to refute, when you are writing your refutation paragraph, you have to restate, okay, and then you have to refute, you need to include your support, and you have to conclude. But then, on the other hand, for your body paragraphs, you must include what? Claim, data, warrant. But for your refutation, you must restate, you must refute, you must support, you must conclude. And then for your introductory paragraph, you must state your background. You can use the 5 strategies. And the most important thing is you must state your thesis statement. You must state your position in your thesis statement. That's how you write a complete refutation paragraph. Okay, then mission accomplished. Okay, so any questions for refutation? I'll just project this so that you will remember. Okay, so it involves a lot of analysis, a lot of processes. You have to analyze, and then you need to know what are the points from the oppositions, and then you need to find your evidence to support your information that is totally the opposite. Okay, and then you have to conclude your refutation paragraph by stating the information why it does make sense. Saad, are you from T4? Are you from T4 class? Muhammad Saad, are you from T4? From T4, T7, T6 or T5? From which tutorial session? T4, I will explain to you. Yeah, that's why I said this earlier. T4, I will explain to you all on Wednesday, starting from introductory, body paragraphs, conclusion, and also you can complete the whole essay. Because you were affected, your class were actually affected because of public holidays. Okay, so your paragraph refutation, you have to write it before your concluding paragraph. So before you write your concluding paragraph, you must add one more paragraph under your body paragraphs to include your information. Okay, include your refutation paragraph. Yes, Samuel, you can write this. Okay, you have to determine, Huilin, which point you want to address. Okay, which point you want to address. Okay, so then let's say if you want to address the point of the issues of development of interpersonal skills, so you have to focus on that. Okay, just choose one. Just choose one opposing view. Okay. All right. Do you have questions for refutation? Anyway, it's not really a complex step or a complex process for refutation. It's just the matter of you addressing the opposing views. At the same time, we try to prove them wrong. Okay, but it requires maybe some kind of simple research for you to understand the information from the oppositions. Okay, all right. So T4, I will explain to you further on introductory paragraph and then body paragraphs and also refutation. Okay, I shared on Moodle. Ziyi, you turn on your camera. Ziyi, you turn on your camera. You accidentally turn on your camera, Ziyi. Okay, thank you, Ziyi. You can find your slides on Moodle. Okay, let me just Moodle. I'll show you the information that you can get from Moodle. Okay, you can access your folders. I think you know where to find the information on Moodle. Okay, you can see my initials anyway from Moodle. Okay, let me just show it to you. Okay. Okay, Moodle English for academic purposes. Okay, this is yours. You can see, right? 42021 ZFA. This is our folder. Okay, this is our folder. Okay, so you can find from lecture slides here, you can find the slides that I have covered so far from week 1 until week 6. This week is week 6. Yeah, this week is week 6. Okay, let me just save this copy. I'll just save this copy. Okay, so refutation paragraph. Okay, I will upload now. I will upload the slides now, yeah? Okay. Okay. It's okay, no problem, Z. So now, when is my last day? My last day is on Wednesday. For EAP on Wednesday. Okay? All right. So, this is your attendance for today. Lecture. 1:15. Okay, please scan the QR code. Okay. Okay, hold on. All right. So please scan the QR code now, everyone. Okay. My last day will be next week, but then your new lecturer will take over starting Tuesday next week because Monday is a public holiday. So Tuesday for tutorial session, tutorial session Tuesday and Wednesday. You are going to see her. You are going to see your lecturer. I'm not sure who is going to replace me, Vivin. Okay, I'm not sure who is going to replace me. Okay, anyone? Anyone else? Please scan the QR code.
Hello.
Okay, Aaron, Cheong Yiling, Harish, Lombe, Aoyang is not here because he is attending funeral. Ruth also not here.
Miss, I'm unable to sign.
Is that you, Ruth?
Lombe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, see you.
Miss Harish is here, Miss.
Harish. Okay, Aaron, Cheong Yiling, and then okay,
Miss?
sorry. You can hear me, right? Sorry, something wrong with my connection here. Okay, you may leave this meeting room now. Okay, I will see you tomorrow. T4, 5, sorry, T7, T6 and T5, T4, I'll see you on Tuesday.
Miss?
All right? Yes.
Cheong Yiling is getting vaccine.
Cheong Yili, okay, vaccine appointment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Okay, Zeki done? Yes?
Ma'am, a T4 class is on Wednesday.
Sorry?
EAP T4 class is on Wednesday, not on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I said. Tomorrow is T6 and T5.